everybody. Okay, we're going to call to order the meeting of the Barrio Historico Historic Zone Advisory Board for Wednesday, August 24th, 2022 at 4 p.m. I'm going to make a motion to approve the last minute since I reviewed those. Is there anybody that wants to second that?
I'll second it. I'll second.
Hello?
Hello, I'll second it.
Thank
Mary
you.
Lou, I got it.
Jody, you called the audience. Is there anything from anybody?
No, we did not receive any comments.
Okay, so I guess we can move on to the design guidelines discussions. Philip is not going to be here today. I don't know if the rest of the board knew. He had a travel appointment that popped up last minute. So I know last time, because not everybody was here, we decided to postpone it, but I think we got a good start. So I would like to proceed unless somebody has something else to say about it. Cool. So should we continue the way we did last time where Grace, you're doing the editing online and we just kind of go through the whole thing?
Yeah, let me pull it up.
Cool.
I think maybe Philip was driving last time, but I can do it.
Oh, he was?
I believe so, but I'm happy to do it instead.
Okay.
Okay, so we stopped right here before building types. I think someone had said there's specific concerns regarding the building types or edits that they had in mind. Do you want to start there?
Yeah, can you repeat the last thing you said, Grace? I didn't catch it.
I think we paused at this point because it seemed like there was a longer discussion needed to be had about the building types. So
Okay.
we're running out of time. So I was just wondering whoever had that information, if they want to start.
Yeah, I don't think it was me. Anybody else?
Not me.
Paul?
Oh, not me.
It may have been Philip.
Okay, so we'll scroll through those. Down to design standards specific to Barrio Historico for new construction. This first one is sort of reiterating the code a little bit, maybe, and saying the height requirements, how the height is measured. Do we want to keep that in?
Well, I mean, that first sentence or that second sentence to me makes sense that, you know, parapets are not going to be able to match the height of a gable or hip roof. I think in the past we've dealt with that where if there was a comparable property that was hipped or gable, we use the eaves as the building height standard.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, can we just go back to Pueblo Revival real quick? I hate to backtrack.
Absolutely.
You know, the building type is characterized by earth colored stucco on adobe brick or wood construction. I mean, does anybody know of any definitive cases where those homes in the barrio were built out of wood? Mary Lou or Paul?
Stucco on adobe brick.
No, I don't know of anything made out of wood, and I think that something like
Go ahead.
I think the Pueblo Revival style is just something that isn't present in the Barrio Historico.
Yeah, the revival style.
Yeah. The
Yeah, and
Pueblo,
I mean, I hate to backtrack after we said we're all good with it, but the Spanish colonial too. I mean, I don't know of any cases down there that,
yeah, that also.
can we just pull those two out?
I would highlight those. You probably want to do just a little bit more research before you're dumping them.
Yeah, highlight those and we need to do some research.
You know, the Craftsman bungalow is probably a predominant style in the El Hoyo area.
Yeah, there's also that one that we reviewed a couple weeks ago for Bob Lanning that I think is a bungalow. On Simpson or Kennedy, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I get those two streets mixed up. But so we'll highlight the Spanish colonial and the Pueblo and,
Yeah, and then we need to do some research.
okay. All right, sorry about the backtracking.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, so my thought on the first couple of items here is, do we think it's redundant to have them in here because they're in the code language, or is it helpful to reiterate them?
Nobody
Setback,
really,
height.
no, few people read the code. That's what the problem is.
But which code are you talking about, Grace? Like,
UDC.
oh, I think we should keep them in here then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Should maintain the.
But we're still on height, aren't we?
Yeah, we got height.
Does anybody have any issues with that or questions? So, you know, the last sentence in there, height in the HPZ is measured as the vertical distance between the highest part of a building structure and the finished grade at the midpoint of the front facade of the principal building. I mean, does anybody see a problem with that? Or, you know, I'm thinking on sloped lots, you know, where the front, where you're at the sidewalk, you maintain a height that's say 14 feet, but because the lot is sloping, and especially on detached structures, that back structure, if the height is 14 feet in the back and the grade is much higher, I mean, does anybody see an issue with that? You know, it ends up being a lot higher than the front part of the house if the standard is measuring at the midpoint at the front facade.
Well, I think that if depending on what the slope is, for example, if the slope is from the front to the back of a building, it's different than it is from one side to the other side. So, you know, for example, where I'm at, we have several houses that are at the high side of the lot, but in the back, there's the ground slopes off so that the ground level in the front is actually 3 feet above the grade in the back. But I think we should be primarily concerned with the grade in the front of the building.
Well, let me bring up a point to that. You know, I'm building a house on Main right now that the lot slopes from east to west by probably around 24 to 30 inches. And we have a detached two structures there, and we maintain the roof height of the rear house to match the roof height of the front house. So, and I think we did that because we were pushed by Jody Gibbs at the time But if we read this correctly, I think the back house that I'm building could theoretically be 30 inches taller than the front house.
Well,
And
I
I
think
see
that's what
that
they're trying to, I think the sentence is trying to say exactly what you were saying, which is that the total height is gonna be measured from the grade at the front to the top. You know, so we don't end up taking advantage of any height in the back.
yeah. Okay, I got that now.
But maybe we should rephrase it so that that's a
Yeah.
little bit more clear.
Yeah, I think if we just rephrase it a little bit, because I was thinking 14 feet. Well, I guess, I mean, I think it should be rephrased a bit.
Not to go back, but I was in around Street View and I've seen a number of Spanish colonial.
What? Which ones? Where are they?
Oh, now you want to? I don't
Well-
have access, but I'm like on Kennedy. And where was I before? There was one that was on, I've seen a few. Kennedy, I think I saw some on Main, but I've seen some. I'm just like kind of poking around the neighborhood via Street View. But you guys can confirm the Pueblo. I haven't seen everything, so I can't speak to the Pueblo. Not that, but I would even say that some of the ones that you guys did for Bob Landing on Kennedy, and was that Kennedy? Those would also fall. Spanish.
I think those were like bungalow.
No.
Oh, I know exactly which one you're talking about.
So I'm just.
I think
saying,
it's the next street over.
I've seen some.
I
Simpson?
think Simpson. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Keep going east. But keep going. You're gonna pass Meyer and then on the left. That one up there.
Between Meyer and Convent?
Yeah. On Simpson.
Actually, it's between church and or convent and
Stone.
Awnings.
Okay, so we want to keep Spanish colonial.
Yeah, I can't speak to the Pueblo. Or
You know which one might be that? On Meyer and 17th on southeast corner. No, look the other way, look shoot south,
Oh,
down by the brick church. That one there, what is that? No,
what do
I
you-
don't know what that is.
There we go.
Is that it, Mary Lou?
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
It's debatable. Oh, that's 633 South Meyer.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was one we just did for an addition in the back. I would say for Pueblo, that's debatable. So you still might want to look around, take a walk when it's not so hot.
Okay.
I won't go back anymore.
Okay, so, yeah, so I need to think about how to rephrase the height sentence. We'll come back
Yeah.
to that.
I mean, is it possible just to write maximum height in the HPZ is measured as blah, blah, blah?
Would
And
you
pertains to
say
all
that again?
structures. Maximum height in the HPZ is measured, so I'm just adding the word maximum. And then vertical distance, maximum height in the HPZ is measured as the vertical distance between the highest part of the building structure and the finished grade at the midpoint of the front facade of the principal building. And is used throughout the project. I mean, feel free to review that if anybody wants to. And that last sentence, this definition only applies in the zone by code. What exactly is
I'm
that?
not sure
mean?
what that means.
Should we
This
take it out?
definition only applies in the zone by code. Yeah. But just unnecessary, right? We don't need to confuse people.
Setbacks should be. Just I'd add an in between
In the,
setback.
yeah, in the project's development zone.
Are you guys good with proportion?
Oh, that seems good to me.
Yeah.
I think maybe already is, we don't need that, the range established by contributing
Yeah.
structures.
Yeah. I mean, should we be talking about like the rhythm of the massing under proportions, or is there a separate?
A rhythm section?
I don't know.
No, there's not.
Does that need to be in there?
It should be. And I'm not sure where we pick that rhythm up, under what section that, you know,
Could it be under this whole section here? It'd be proportion and rhythm. And then we could
okay,
just-
yeah, that's fine.
Proportion and then rhythm, or proportion and rhythm together?
and rhythm. Do we need to add a sentence defining rhythm?
Yeah,
Yeah. Grace, you're the architect.
Should be within the range established. And consistent. Should we do the same? So we'll say rhythm here. See if I can spell it. We'll say
In the development zone?
size, spacing, I don't know, relationship.
Repeated pattern.
Yeah, and let's make a note here. I'm sure he has an opinion. Philip can take a look at that too.
Yeah.
Okay, roof types.
Looks fine for me.
Okay, accessory down in the last sentence, the A, I don't think is capped. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Surface textures. In keeping with materials. Acceptable.
Should be finishes.
Steel
Also-
trowel textured stucco is the most common. What's this?
Is no, it should be R because there's
R.
three different.
We've got more than one.
Three,
It's
yeah,
all of them.
yeah. The sentence right before that, I don't know. The use of non-traditional building materials needs to be judged on a case-by-case basis. I mean, I'm against that because people are going to argue consistently that they want to build their project out of wood, and they're going to argue it on a case basis.
Case basis, right. So
I think we
let's,
could eliminate that whole
Yeah.
sentence.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
definitely.
before you get rid of that, and the other advisory boards do have they don't say judge, they say reviewed on a case by case basis. So it's not saying we're going to accept it. They don't have to accept it, but it is something that would potentially allow.
Frame stucco.
Pardon?
It's something that could allow frame stucco. I mean, I'm for just taking the whole thing out and
This
not
is
giving
surface-
them.
This is surface.
That
texture,
edge.
So not necessarily frame stuck. It could allow.
Okay,
more
right.
Like, I'm just trying to think of an option, like if you had an addition that had wood siding, I'm just throwing this out, and they want to use like a hardy plank that would
Yeah,
still be.
So I think
a
we
lap
probably
siding.
need to just rephrase that a little bit. The use of non-traditional surface textures needs to be, I think building materials, usually I associate that with what the wall structure is, not a finish.
That sentence, if we're going to keep it, shouldn't it be under building materials?
Well, I think it's a surface texture thing that what Jody just brought up.
I mean, it is under surface textures. You're probably
Yeah,
right.
if
It's
we
just
put it under
would
building
be
materials,
under-
then it leads to people wanting to do frame construction.
okay.
thing.
That's the last option I want to see code in the code in this.
Right.
Okay. Why don't we just skip it?
I mean, I would change it to the use of non-traditional building finishes instead of materials.
Okay,
Needs to be judged on a case-by-case basis. And then if we can leave an opening for wood or what was that, hardy plank siding instead of wood?
Yeah, I mean, because if you have something that's, gonna deteriorate, that's like instead of doing a wood board and batten, maybe they're doing a hardy plank board and batten. That's
Yeah,
so-
I mean, the problem with that is that, we've been so consistent with having everybody do wood windows. And those are a huge maintenance issue. And you can actually do a wood window that's cladded in aluminum. You wouldn't tell the difference. It would last much better over a 20-year time frame, but we hold everybody to that standard, but then we open them up to this one. I think it's kind of hypocritical.
Well, and it might be time to consider allowing an aluminum clad window. And maybe it's only an aluminum clad window on an addition, and the historic portion of the house needs to be maintained as wood. I mean, it's something, as you guys kind of go through this, to consider, because I can tell you everybody else is allowing these considerations.
Everybody is allowing what, Jody?
They're allowing, they're reviewing them on a case-by-case basis, and nobody has said yes to vinyl. Nobody's okaying vinyl, but they're still
Right.
allowing aluminum clad for sure.
Armory Park is?
Uh-huh. As is West University.
that's interesting.
What's the board's thought of that?
I know we're not at Windows yet, but just,
Oh, is there, I guess we'll do it when we get to Windows.
No, I'd be more concerned about the appearance than the actual material. I mean,
Yeah, me too.
I see the concern about the durability of wood and the maintenance required. So.
And the Secretary of Interior has allowed for not like in-kind material. They have the appearance of for replacement.
All right. Should we move on to building materials?
Sure.
Cancel that. So one question while we're in service textures, there's a note here about plywood and T111. Are we considering that as service material, the T111?
Yeah, I think yeah.
So we can just put that after expansion joints.
Great. I mean, Grace, the T111, it should be like T1, then hyphen or whatever that is, 11.
Hyphen here.
Yeah, and then get rid of that hyphen after the T. There you go.
Gotcha. Use.
And, the stone, I mean, it would be nice if we wrote like natural stone.
Okay.
So I get that, but aren't there really just a limited number of stone elements in the district? It's either like you can open that up, like people can say, oh yeah, this river rock, it's all nice and rounded, is natural.
Right. Well, we
Yeah,
can
but it's
write
not in the
natural
district.
stone found in the historic district.
Yeah.
Or found in
closes
past
that loop.
architecture. Yeah, found in past architecture of the Barrio. I mean, I've just seen so many projects in like, like Stone Canyon, they pride themselves on this stone up there and they bring in this stuff that's made out of plastic from who knows where, Kentucky or back east. And it's like, it's awful. And I'm sure somebody one day is going to bring something like that to the board.
Could you repeat what the language you were saying?
In natural stone material previously found in Barrio architecture or previously used.
Should we say the development zone?
Yeah, the development zone.
Say not previously used, I would say historically used.
Yeah.
Historically used, yes.
Yeah, because if you say previously used and you have somebody who
Yeah.
permit and put that crap up, then that makes a problem.
Smart. So, are we good with building materials?
Yeah, there's nothing in there really that says that wood frame is not allowed. It says stucco on wood frame is not allowed or metal studs. I mean, the stucco should be up on the surface texture.
Yeah,
Unacceptable
yeah.
materials are wood frame or metal stud construction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This before, and I recognize that it's not an overly popular opinion.
Jody, I'm having a really hard time hearing at you. I don't know if everybody else is.
Yes, I am too.
Yes, I agree.
Switch to my phone then. Hold on.
So site utilization was already highlighted. Does anybody remember why?
No.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Much better.
Okay, because I
switched
switched to my phone.
phone.
And I'm gonna mute this so you don't have some weird echo.
Perfect.
So I know this isn't popular and I've said it before, but technically you guys are reviewing the aesthetics and
Yeah.
not the built portion. Which speaks to the wood frame and the metal studs construction.
But we're also reviewing the character of the neighborhood though.
Which is related to the aesthetics. I'm
Right.
just putting it out there.
Yeah, I mean, we could go around and around on this all day long. I'll never vote to have wood frame in the barrio. I mean, I've made huge sacrifices over 20 years over there building out of construction materials that are appropriate and, because I've always tried to do the right thing. And there's always people trying to come in to build in that neighborhood, especially now because the prices are sky high and they're bottom dollar people. And, they're always going to push for wood construction. So, I mean, I think we should leave it in there.
Yeah. Over the years, every board that I've sat on, we fought over stucco and frame,
Right.
and it goes to everything that windows and doors, stucco and frame, you cannot. When you
Can't
look at
get
the
the depth.
aesthetics of it,
You can't get the depth of
You
the
can't
wall
get the depth.
thickness and, it's not working. So Jody, we can have it and they can fight us over it and probably win, but at least we have it in there. They know where we stand up front, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you can, I'm putting it out there. I'm
Yeah.
doing my due diligence and putting it out there.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Okay. So I don't know why this one was highlighted.
Extant.
Some variations to these.
Should that be existent or extant, a word that I just don't know?
Yes, it was a word I also didn't know, but it is appropriate in this context.
It is appropriate. It's just.
Extant?
Extant.
Okay. What
means-
is it? What does it mean?
They're there,
Oh,
existing, extant. It is a language in my field that you see a lot.
okay.
But do you capitalize courtyard and house?
I think courtyard house here is a
Or-
type.
Yeah,
We don't have it in our building types. So maybe
Yeah,
we
you
need to
don't
add
have
it.
You don't have it in your building types. It did exist at one point in time. And it was remodeled out of existence on Convent Street.
Yeah, which building are you talking about, Mary Lou? Is it Dave's old house?
If you go south of the intersection of Kennedy and Meyer, and let's see, there's the John Lovegrove's house at the corner. No, we need to go over, I'm sorry, go over onto Convent.
Convent and Kennedy.
Convent
Kennedy.
and Kennedy. Okay, see the pink house here?
Mhm.
Go south, go past to the blue house and then the next one on the south. Go south on, yeah, keep going.
So I know the
Okay,
white one
right,
used to
right
have-
there, right there. Back up, north of the White House. That house right there was a courtyard house. And when they bought it, they eliminated the courtyard. The only reason I know is my office used to be the big white adobe, and we climbed over the roof and into the center of this house.
So your office, Mary Lou, is the white adobe
It
to the right?
used to be. It used to be.
So I
not
think that
anymore.
house used to be a courtyard house too. Is that possible?
I don't know that. It was two houses at one point in time with a Zagwan in the center. Okay,
Right.
but
And-
they,
Oh. Is it still a courtyard house? Is that like
No.
a shade? Like
no,
a, oh,
it's gone.
huh.
Yeah, they filled it in when they did the remodel.
That's so crazy.
I mean, I don't have any problems with the rest of the site utilization,
No,
especially like that last sentence.
Yeah. Seems good. I'm gonna unhighlight it. I think this next one is good too.
I do too.
Yeah, it's fine.
Character defining is hyphenated. Sorry to be nitpicky.
No, it's perfect.
So you have the note about parking structures.
Mhm.
It has come up in Armory Park. There is the project that they're proposing a parking structure for. So I don't know if you want to have like a separate section on parking structures, not like, just like a few sentences like this, but it is the one actually that we were just talking about before the meeting started that was across from the Creo school that they pulled back from. They were originally kind of proposing a platform with parking underneath. So it's not a structure per se, but it might be something that you, if you don't already, want to put some thought into.
In Armory Park, it's a lot with only a parking structure.
No, it's a lot that has some buildings that are proposed. Like there's an existing building, and they'll have some small units that'll wrap around like maybe two sides. This was the last design. This hasn't fully gone through their review yet. It's just done some courtesy reviews, but they would have
Is
some
this-
small units. It's the All
Is this
Saints.
all, is this the All Angels?
All Saints, yeah.
They're All Saints?
Uh-huh.
Or
But
AKA
then-
Hell's Kitchen?
But there's also like two sides of that would be exposed as a parking garage, unless they do something to kind of disguise it, like plants or art or murals or whatever. But it is something that you might want to consider because you guys do have some vacant lots and it could be something that comes up. I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah. That's the Bill Mackey one?
Uh-huh, exactly.
My only hesitation about making a parking structure one is we don't really want to encourage people to do that. They're like, oh, there's a whole section about parking structures, but you're right that if we don't address it, we don't want that to become an issue either.
Yeah, you don't want to be silent on it because then they're like, oh, well, you have nothing on it. So it must be okay.
Okay, so should we set aside a section that is nothing but parking structure?
It's a thought.
And-
And I'm not saying parking structures are bad. I think if they're designed appropriately, then they're okay. But it's the matter of designing it appropriately.
I'm just scrolling through to see where it might fit best. There is a section here about parking. But that's, oh yeah, no structured parking here is highlighted.
Okay.
No
that-
structured parking. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That
Julie.
might come from Armory Park. Because I think you guys got this. Didn't you get some of this from Armory Park?
We hunted and gathered from a number of sources, and it could be this is.
So let's just make a note here, revise with so we can address that when we get there.
Okay,
Boop, boop, boop. And maybe we just remove this note altogether and we put it all in one spot.
That'd probably be good. Anybody object?
No.
Oh, so here's a section about rhythm. So maybe we leave the proportion section alone, we say building forms and rhythm, or we combine all three. Is building form different than proportion significantly?
I think we combine all three.
Mary, what do you think?
Okay,
Just copying it here for reference so you can see all the information.
Yeah.
in one spot.
Yeah, why don't we put it, let's put it under building forms, proportions.
Because we're defining building form as size, mass, scale, and then proportion. Maybe we just add before rhythm here, we add a line in the same format, proportion dash, and then this description.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
And also the first sentence, maintaining the character of a neighborhood through building form includes size, mass, and scale, which reinforces the sense of conformity.
Yeah, that's sort of a nice, it's a good beginning.
Should we add the word which
Yeah,
reinforces?
yes.
Okay, and then there's a note here about West University. Is that just a
I think-
citation?
I think she was footnoting it as to where that came, maybe where it came from.
Are we doing that consistently? And should we be?
Actually, in the beginning, we just wanted to, give credit where credit was due. And we knew that this was going to get changed, as the board reviewed it. So you can probably eliminate it because we're changing as we go along and editing.
But you do want a footnote. Because if some of your sources are copying from other places or quoting from other places, you want to know where you're getting that information.
That may be a little bit difficult to parse if we haven't been doing it so far, but we can back check against the other ones and see where we're pulling directly. I'm not familiar with this. 12 projections of massing. May just be me though.
I don't know where that comes from.
I don't either. Insets and relative decayed proportions within a block face or within block faces.
The whole sentence is a little awkward.
Yeah.
Rhythm includes pattern and scale of openings within individual facades. Relative facade proportions within block. Maybe just get rid of all of this.
Yeah. Okay.
So then insets will be captured under this pattern of doors, windows, doors
Mhm.
and window openings. Solid void pattern. Okay. So we'll jump down. Design guidelines for new construction, renovations, alterations, and additions overview. What was the previous section called? Design standards specific. What's the timeline for landmark historic district designation?
Ask that again.
We have, it says that we have this pending landmark historic district designation.
Oh, it's still pending. They submitted to the National Park Service, and the Park Service had some comments that kind of were contrary to their previous comments. So they're in the process of fixing those. We've applied for a grant, a pass-through grant through SHPO, to kind of help offset the cost of that, but we don't know yet whether or not we're getting that funding. So it's still in the works.
Okay. Do we want to remove language about especially what's visible from the street? I feel like we've had that come up a couple of times in reviews that we're looking at stuff
Yeah.
that's visible
Yeah.
inside the lot.
Yeah, we're not doing a movie studio. We're looking at all the elevations.
So generally, I tell people that the review is holistic. You look at everything they do on the site, and all sides of the building, but your money shot's going to be more about the front and street visible side. So if somebody wanted to put in French doors on an existing window opening on the front, it would be an automatic no. But if they wanted to do that in the back, there's a possibility. So I don't know. I mean, you can keep it like this. You can expand on that.
Yeah, so you think leave that phrase in to reinforce that hierarchy, that the exterior is really the streetscape is what we're most worried about.
It is, or just add that it's review. The street visible sides are gonna be of the utmost importance. I mean, or you can leave it like you have. I'm just throwing it out. But it does let people know that they have a chance for something to get changed on the back more likely than they at the front.
Buildings or structures that are moved into the district. Is that common? Moving structures into the district?
No,
But it has happened.
not that I'm aware of.
But it could happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, in the El Hoyo district, there's on the submittal for the designation as a historic district, there's one house that's mentioned as having been moved from outside of the area, and it's listed as a non-contributing. It's on El Paso Avenue.
ah,
It's yeah, if you look at go to the intersection of El Paso and Simpson Street, and it would be the second house to the north of the corner house. It's the one behind the red Volkswagen.
Hmm.
How did you find this out, Paul?
It's on the City of Tucson website. It's the nomination form for the El Hoyo.
Oops, that's all right. It's this one.
But it does list the structure as being non-contributing for two reasons. One, because it has the wall obscuring the property, and the other one, it states that the building was moved from outside the historic district. So I don't know where it was moved from or when it was moved, but the fellow who did the research for that put those notes in the nomination form.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
So there are some properties that are proposed to be moved in West University. They're in West University, and they are being proposed to move to West University. And we've received concurrence from SHPO that they would be maintained as contributing resources. Just as a side note. So, I mean, relocation can happen. It doesn't happen a lot, but it could happen.
Yeah, cool. I'm thinking that this section is probably good, relocating buildings necessary. We're jumping into the considerations, is that, or did you guys have any thoughts on this upper section?
No,
No.
So there's this house in San Diego and it was relocated. It's a Victorian era house. And when they relocated it to its new spot, it was lowered by like, I don't know, a foot to 18 inches, which now it has this like 6-inch step up into the house, which looks stupid. And it annoys me because it's not appropriate looking. You know, you have this like low to ground where they used to usually sit on a stem wall and they're higher up. You know, they're like at least 18 inches, 2 feet up off the ground, to now have something that's only 6 inches off the ground. So you might want to, if you're going to keep these questions in there, have something about the height, the foundation height, or something along those lines. Do you understand what I'm saying though?
Yes. Um, Are building type appropriate? Heights or foundations?
That house was moved into the district in 1986,
Hmm.
which was not that long ago. I like date myself, but it's not that long ago.
So for this next section, I don't know if we need to list here and then again below. Maybe we can just get rid of the list here and move this to the bottom. So you see, consider one of the 3 strategies, and then you'll just see like 1, 2, 3 strategies.
sure.
What is SOIS?
Secretary of Interior Standards.
Secretary, okay. I mean, have we defined that before?
I just removed the sentence where it said that, so maybe we type it out here. Secretary of the,
Just above that, I would remove the A before generally.
so I just added a note here that we should maybe reuse this phrase, key development criteria, at the title where we define the setbacks proportion.
Sure.
Should make sure probably that this list matches too. Oops, I didn't mean to delete it. Oops, there we go. Did anyone else have thoughts about this portion? The rest of the page?
Can we step back for just a minute?
Mhm.
The abstract reference, invention, all of those are key elements. And I'm wondering up at the top, how do we introduce these? I mean, we go from this paragraph here, your participation in the design review ensures the preservation of original architectural character, which, okay, and then when completing new construction in a historic setting, consider one of 3 strategies based on 3 possible attitudes toward existing setting or resource. Is something that says they are the following, or I don't know, just
Consider
Just
one of
says
the below strategies.
yeah. Consider one of the following strategies.
Yeah, I think that's better.
Okay, now that I've disrupted things, go ahead, go down to the bottom.
So this section was about new construction, additions or accessory. So this one says alterations and the one below also alterations. Maybe we should delete it.
Delete the top one.
I'll address them only in this section. Well, this one's new construction too. So that's the larger section. This is like a subheading, I guess, starting with alterations. Yeah, I think all of those points are
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, they're
I
good.
don't have any problem with that.
You know, at the very top of that, it says insert example. Are we gonna do that, or should we just get rid of that right now?
What, yeah, what would that look like?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say we just get rid of that.
That makes sense.
Okay,
Hey, Jody.
Yes,
So under that new construction, that first sentence, where it says if there are new construction of primary building should be based on historic streetscape and building patterns that are seen in the project's development zone. If there are no contributing buildings within the project's development zone, adjacent zones or district standards may be considered by the board. Don't they have to do for an expanded development zone if that's the case?
they do. As I
And what's the-
understand it, they have to get an expanded development zone. And they can make the case, I mean, pretty well if there's no contributing properties or like one contributing property within their development zone.
Okay. if there are no contributing buildings from the project's development zone,
Comma.
an expanded development zone may be applied for so that adjacent zones or district standards may be considered by the board.
But what's the process for expanding the development zone, Jody? I mean, it's a city process, isn't it?
It is a city process. They have to put in a request with reasoning to the, and there's a fee associated with it, to the zoning administrator.
Mhm.
And then the zoning administrator will review past precedent and the request and make a determination. So the one, probably the most recent one that happened was the one with Dave Schambach, who had that non-contributing flat roof house that had a lot of leaks. And so he wanted to expand it so he could put a bit of a pitch on it. It was new construction. And he expanded his development zone to include some higher buildings. And it was approved because
Is
I
that
mean,
Dave Schambach that did that?
yeah, it was.
I drove by that building a couple weeks ago. It looks a heck of a lot better than before.
Well, hopefully it's not leaking.
Well, that too.
Well, the proportions on that building were changed significantly after they built it 2.5 feet higher than their building permit called for, and they had to cut off the top of the building so that the second floor windows were pretty close to the top of the wall. Yeah, it was an unfortunate situation that building was ever permitted to be built. You know, there was no advisory board active at that time, so it managed to get through, and it really isn't a consistent structure with the neighborhood.
Okay, so I changed the sentence to say, if there are no contributing buildings within the project's development zone, an expanded development zone may be requested from the zoning administrator so that adjacent zones or district standards may be considered by the board.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. I don't know if we need that last sentence in that paragraph. Or it's after that one, Grace.
In
In
addition,
addition, note these additional guidelines in your new primary building project design. I don't even.
yeah.
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 Your breath stinks. Go.
Is on-site parking something that it's only being enforced for new construction primary buildings?
I think so.
Do we have a prescribed number of feet we want to set the garage
No.
back?
No, I think that should be case by case. Vinyl garage doors are not permitted.
Yeah, so here we come back to what Judy was saying
Yeah.
was significant, so that's probably good.
Do you wanna, it seems a little redundant to have that in there, so you might wanna
Get rid of
look
that.
redundancy, because it gets kind of long, the whole design guidelines.
You think cut these because we said it once before?
Well, or yeah, or just think about it. It may even be stated later on, so it's something to keep in mind.
Okay, let's just highlight this.
Because bear in mind, very few people actually read. I mean, they have the ability to read, it's just whether or not they do read.
In this case, if there are no contributing secondary buildings, do they need to expand the development zone? I imagine that's fairly common.
Yeah.
Is that, do they go through the same process again as to apply to the city as part of a city process?
To expand the development zone?
Yeah, in this case.
Is it necessary for secondary buildings if there are no secondary contributing buildings?
That's a good question. I would say yes. Because, I mean, it's still all a matter of the development zone,
Okay,
something new or, altering. I would say yes.
In addition, note these. Do you get rid of the in addition or the additional, do you think?
I would get rid of the additional.
Done, okay.
The next 4 bullet points look good to me.
yeah,
Great.
On that second bullet point, you have a bullet point within a bullet point.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is this still accurate with the new ADU language?
Good question.
I would have to look at that.
So we'll highlight that to be checked on.
Jody, under special zoning. So there's portions of the barrio that are like in the GIID or the ID.
Oh, yeah, the IID, the
Or
greater or
IID.
whatever. Yeah.
So our guidelines prevail over all of those incentives, or is that what that says right there?
That's what I take that to say.
Okay,
Is that accurate?
So I haven't really, I haven't dealt with it in Barrio, but we've had a couple of IID cases in Armory Park. And they still have to, adhere to the design guidelines. And shouldn't design guidelines should have an S, yes? Guidelines, standards, guidelines.
I think it's guideline standards.
It is.
It reads funny.
Yeah. What are we calling this document? We're on page 20. Design guidelines. So maybe we just leave this at guidelines.
And eliminate standards.
Yeah. So do we need the history of the flexible lot development here?
It's probably a good idea because a lot of people don't even know what it means or what it is or where it came from.
Okay,
Isn't it telling us that in that paragraph?
it is. I was wondering if we should get rid of it, but I hear you. We'll keep it. That makes sense.
So though, keep in mind that if they're coming in with the flexible lot development, I mean, people already have talked to the city. So this is likely on the city webpage. So I would say this is kind of something that's redundant. I mean, I would focus less on the history and what it means for the district for a flexible lot development, like what you can have. Do you catch my
Well, yeah,
drift?
but can they go through, do you need to have an actual project to apply for an FLD? I mean, what if somebody just came in on a lot and applied for an FLD without a project and they've got all these little lots now? Can it work that way?
I think that's a lot split. So, I mean, I don't think they can do it. I think they have to come in with a project. I can check on that.
I mean, the FLD it's a lot split, right? Pretty much.
It's a lot split, but you typically have certain size lots that you can do for a lot split. So an FLD is more like a commune project.
Commune project?
Condominium, condos. Like I always associate where it's just like really units all jammed together. Mostly California.
Is there a minimum lot size for an FLD?
I'll ask. I can get back to you.
Okay.
Okay.
maybe highlight that and just, we can come back to it.
Philip knows about this really well.
So I think this section about how the blocks are developed and differentiated, or the articulation between them is good and important.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So now we're getting into, so this was sort of overall design and now more detail. I'm wondering if we need like another heading in between here, or maybe that's what this is. We have a table of contents, right?
Yeah. Guess we need to add page numbers onto that.
Yeah,
And considerations right there, underlined, spelled wrong. If you
Uh,
scroll up, you'll see
in the
it.
table of content. Oh, yeah.
I'm wondering if it would be helpful to sort of add some hierarchy to this so that we, you know, more like this introduction and then background. If we had some larger headings and then get into, so that if somebody's looking for,
Usually in a report format, you do primary, secondary, tertiary, and you play with font and size and all of that.
okay,
I'm not sure we're quite there yet, but that would be helpful. Just visually, it would be helpful.
yeah, let's make a note to take a look at that. Sorry, got sidetracked. We're on 20.
So the concern I always have with the material and design elements, architectural details and ornamentation is that some people want to get salvaged materials to put it on like a previous edition or something like that to make it match.
Uh-huh.
So I would put some caution. I mean, I'm okay, like using, you have that, however, salvaged items should match the original element being replaced. You know, I mean, that's your disclaimer, but I would be careful that people don't want to put it on something that was never there, like it's an addition. And it's just, I don't know, like when I'm reading this, I think some people may take that as a, oh, well, I can get salvage materials and I can put it on this addition to make the addition match my historic portion of the house or something like that. It's just always a concern and an argument that I've had a lot.
Yeah, so we need to make it clear that substitute parts, salvage parts should only be in situations where you need to replace it. So it's sort of like, it's a repair strategy rather than a design.
Yeah, and
Yes,
it's
yes.
beyond the historic
Good.
portion only.
Right.
Replaced
So if we're moving on to chimneys and vents, because I'm running into this with something else. There are primary chimneys and there are secondary chimneys. The secondary chimneys still speak to like a use on a house, and I consider them just as important. But people will try to get rid of your secondary chimney like quick. So I don't know if you want to bring it up, mention it, note it.
Any and all existing chimneys.
Both primary and secondary.
Because people just think of the, you know, the highly decorative one on the side.
Yeah.
But and the last bullet point has a couple of bullet points in it. Oh, crap. Are you guys getting rain?
No.
Oh,
Not yet.
it has just started to rain at my house.
What part of town are you at?
We're at like Tanque Verde and Sabino Canyon, but I was gonna walk the dog after this meeting, so it kind of kills that.
It looks pretty dark
Umbrella
up there.
time.
Yeah, I've been hearing some thunder here and
So under colors,
Mhm.
Jody, why are we not allowed to review colors? I mean, it's a pretty impactful decision on a building.
You can review colors as if it's like new construction or like an addition or something along those lines, you can review colors. Because that's part of the whole part of it. But
Right.
if somebody's just painting their house, it's hard to regulate colors. Most cities actually don't regulate colors. If it's just like you're just painting it. There are something like Charleston, because Charleston does. But most cities don't regulate color because it's just so difficult to regulate. You can put, I've had it in the past where you can have a recommendation for colors. And that might be what the direction you want to go, earth tones, warm or light pastels or whatever. You can put it in here so people know, because we get that a lot. Like, well, what color should I paint it? And Sherman-Williams actually has a historic paint palette, but that might be
Yep.
more for like bungalows and stuff like that, and less for, but I would put in colors. These are appropriate colors. But I would still keep it like, like earth tones or something along those lines, or tans or something in their area. So it's still kind of, because there's a lot of colors out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just concerned about people picking those pastel colors because they think it's like colorful in Mexico, and it's really not. And I understand if their house is an existing color and they're just painting it that same color because it's faded, but I think completely changing color scheme, I mean, I think that's a reviewable detail.
It's not in the code. I would say on your first bullet point where you say consider original historic colors that were used on your building, I would expand on that sentence and say, what kind of colors were used in the district predominantly? Because some people don't know, and some people don't know what the historic colors were in the district.
I mean, I don't know what they are. Does anybody else know?
You would have to do a paint analysis. I mean, that's like digging down and stuff, but I would just expand and say, these are the kind of, colors that you're typically find in the district. Just like you have the styles that are found typically in the district. Look around the district to see what's the common factor for colors. I would also add, you have a bullet point that says prepping the surface should be done in the gentlest means possible, which is correct. But I would also probably expand that to say something along the lines of sandblasting, water blasting, walnut blasting, dry ice blasting, any kind of blasting is not appropriate and can do significant damage to the exterior of the building. Just so that it's clear. Some people think that walnut blasting is gentler than sand blasting.
Well, it is.
Blasting is blasting.
Well, right, but it also depends on the hardness of the material. I mean, I did some walnut blasting a couple weeks ago on a job, and I mean, it was nothing compared to sandblasting.
It's really really, when you get down to it, it's the pressure that you're putting in and exerting onto the surface. But I would definitely.
But just write media blasting is unacceptable in the historic zone. Did you eat? Huh? Okay.
So color is not, they're not applying for a permit, so that alone doesn't come under the review. Does replacing doors come under, if that's all you're doing?
If they're replacing exterior door, yeah, that comes through for review.
It does, okay, great.
So the doors are a review item.
Uh-huh.
Does it say anywhere in there that you do need a review on that? Is-
It's an
I don't
exterior.
know how detailed we need to get, but if somebody's replacing, what's that?
It's an exterior change, so it's
It's the
yeah.
same with paint
I
though.
could,
I mean,
I think.
paint is an exterior change too, but we're not reviewing that. You know, so I mean, when you read the door section here, to me, it seems like, oh, if I use these guidelines, then I'm good. I mean, does it say anywhere in there that it needs to be reviewed?
No. I'm wondering, maybe every other one says it if they don't require it.
I don't think any of that says what's
doesn't.
reviewed and what's not reviewed. I mean, you might want to think about, maybe that comes into when you were talking about hierarchy earlier, that you put like review items and then considerations that should be for non-review items like paint.
Energy measures that are seasonal and temporary do not require review. Where's that? What is that? Like, are those shade cloths, or I mean, what would be the definition of that?
I would think they're probably shade cloths, like somebody
Yeah.
puts, like sometimes they have them outside of their windows. They're just like a little roll down thing for when the sun is
Mm-hmm.
hitting it. So that's interesting that there's a comment in the second one that stained glass may be acceptable on some buildings.
Yeah, I was just reading that.
What buildings are those?
Church.
Yeah,
Churches, the temple that's on stone.
Is that in the
Oh,
HPZ?
I'm sorry?
Is that in the HPZ, that temple?
Yeah,
Okay.
But do you have any residential houses that have stained glass in your district? I don't recall any.
not that I can think of right offhand.
I would consider rethinking this.
Yeah.
Or rewording it that, religious buildings, it's appropriate, or I don't know.
It might just be appropriate just to remove any reference to stained glass.
Yeah, but what if like that temple has stained glass and they come to review?
Well, if you
And it's
don't,
a case by
if you
case
don't,
basis.
if you don't mention it, then it would be something that you could take up at the review time.
Yeah.
we could get rid of this second clause here and say reflective film / glass and color glass are inappropriate for residential applications.
Sure.
So we're coming up on 6. Do you want to go just through to foundations and we can pick up there?
Yeah.
Sure.
It's maybe too much.
What about, and I know I don't say this properly, but what about totalos, the middle ones? Just now
Toldos?
when you were, sure, we'll go with that. Just when you were talking about the energy efficiency, it had shade awnings can be appropriate, but aren't those also, some houses have those? And can you
Yes.
include that under the energy efficiency part?
You could.
Because those aren't canvas, those are metal, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they
toldos are traditionally fixed structures and
Features.
not
Yeah.
not awnings.
Yeah, it's that structure is a little confusing. So if we put it instead at the front. Or maybe even farther to the front. What if we do that?
Say it again for me.
Toldos?
Toldos.
Toldos. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if canvas awnings are something that exists traditionally in this area. So I'm not even sure if I'd want to have that mentioned.
Yeah, but if you want to enforce wood windows, I mean, they take a beating. So, I mean, canvas awnings are something you find historically, just generally. It might be something you want to consider just because you're also saying, hey, put in wood windows, and they're just taking a beating. They're expensive and they need something.
Well, listen, it is after 6 o'clock now, and I do have some things that I'm committed to be doing. So I think I'm going to drop out of the meeting at this time.
All right, should we just adjourn the meeting?
Sure.
Okay, Paul's gone.
Oh, no, I'm still here,
Okay.
but
All right, let me just make a, so item number 5, we're obviously don't have time for the separation letter discussions. Any staff updates, Jody?
No staff updates.
Okay, so let's make a motion to adjourn today's meeting at 6:01 PM. We have a
I'll second
second.
it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody.
okay, good evening.
Bye-bye.
Good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everyone.